I want to say something about my mama. Your mama dead as fuck, nigga. Your mama dead as fuck. Go dig her.
This camp might have won the battle, but they ain't win the...
At the peak of the feud, T.I. and his side looked unusually calm. Almost too calm. From the outside, it seemed like they were winning the rap war without having to force the issue. The energy online was leaning their way, the family appeared united, and for many people watching from a distance, 50 Cent looked like the one falling behind. It did not even feel like a close fight anymore. T.I. was talking with confidence, his people were standing loud behind him, and the public mood made it seem like the battle had already been decided. Then everything shifted. Overnight, the conversation stopped being just about music, pride, and public disrespect. It moved into a much darker space. The entire tone changed when 50 Cent hinted at something nobody wanted to ignore. A documentary-style project linked to the long-running sexual assault allegations involving T.I. and Tiny. In that moment, the feud stopped feeling like regular rap drama and started looking like the setup for something much more serious. What made it hit so hard was not only the subject matter. It was the timing, it was the method, and most importantly, it was the person behind it. 50 Cent has built a reputation for doing more than just responding with bars. He knows how to turn a conflict into a narrative into content, and content into pressure. When he posted and then quickly deleted a teaser in early March 2026, the move felt less like trolling and more like a warning shot. The internet did what it always does. It grabbed the post before it vanished. Screenshots spread fast, blogs reposted it, gossip pages locked onto it. Fans started connecting dots immediately. And once that happened, it did not matter that the original post was gone. The message had already landed. That is why so many people paid attention right away. A deleted post from 50 does not feel accidental. It feels staged. It feels deliberate. It creates tension because it suggests there is something bigger waiting behind it. And in this case, that bigger thing appeared to be tied to allegations that had already hovered over T.Y. and Tiny for years. Up to that point, the feud looked like it belonged to the music world. But this move suggested the battlefield might be changing. If the next step was really a documentary, then lyrics would no longer be the main weapon. Public narrative would be, and when that happens, the rules change fast.
You want weed?
Nah, I said I wanted 50. That's what I said. He don't want no smoke, though.
Oh, Lord.
I called my man out. He don't want no smoke. He ducking smoke.
The teaser was not a full trailer. It was not a polished rollout with release dates, production logos, and official confirmation. That is part of why it felt so effective. It functioned like a signal instead of a formal announcement. It told people just enough to spark panic, curiosity, and speculation without giving away the full plan. And because the title being discussed was Surviving T.I. and Tiny, the reference alone carried a heavy implication. Anyone who has watched the media landscape over the last several years understood what a title like that was meant to trigger. It was not subtle. It was designed to place T.I. and Tiny in a category shaped by scandal, accusation, and documentary exposure. Even if no episode had dropped, the idea itself was enough to shift public focus. The audience no longer cared only about who had the better diss track. They started wondering whether 50 was preparing to relaunch years of ugly allegations in a visual format that could reach far beyond hip-hop blogs. That is what made the move dangerous. A rap beef can stay inside a certain lane. Fans argue, artists trade insults, songs drop, and after some time, the noise fades. But a documentary operates differently. It reaches casual viewers, not just core fans. It organizes scattered stories into one structure. It builds emotion through pacing, interview clips, archived footage, and repetition. And once people start consuming a story in that form, it can reshape how they see someone permanently. The reason this threat felt real is because it was not happening in a vacuum. The feud between 50 Cent and T.I. did not begin yesterday. It goes back nearly 20 years. What started as regional tension eventually became a personal rivalry marked by ego clashes, public shots, and unresolved disrespect. There were times when the friction cooled off, but it never truly disappeared. It just waited. That history matters because old feuds become more dangerous when one side discovers a stronger weapon. By early 2026, this was no longer just New York versus Atlanta, or one rapper claiming lyrical superiority over another. It had become a layered conflict involving family, reputation, old narratives, and now the possibility of a damaging documentary. What people were seeing was not simply a comeback from 50 Cent. It looked like a change in strategy. And when 50 changes strategy, People pay attention because he rarely moves without thinking several steps ahead.
Well, T.I. decided to respond and play into it and say, I'm going to use it to promote my music. He said, at 50 Cent, I don't fear my past. I'm too focused on the future. Top 20 in 2 weeks and climbing. Now, hashtag let them know that. King, I'm love, not light. Hashtag my God don't play.
One of the biggest reasons the feud stayed alive for so long is that 50 Cent never let certain narratives die. The most damaging of those was the old accusation that T.I. had cooperated with authorities. In rap culture, that kind of label can stick for years, even when facts, context, and legal outcomes are more complicated than the headlines make them seem. Once the public starts repeating an idea like that, it becomes part of the artist's shadow. That accusation gained momentum after T.I.'s 2007 weapons case when he was arrested while trying to purchase machine guns and silencers. Because the charges were serious, people immediately began speculating about how the case would end and why the final result looked the way it did. 50 Cent did not stay quiet during that period. He pushed the issue publicly and even worked it into his music. Quiet Whites, helping turn a legal situation into a long-term credibility debate. That was a major turning point in how the two men viewed each other. For years, the idea lingered in the background. Even when they were not actively exchanging shots, the tension remained stored in public memory. Then, years later, T.I. started calling for a versus battle. On paper, it made sense. Both men had major catalogs, strong fan bases, and enough status to headline that kind of matchup. T.I. seemed interested. 50 did not. He kept brushing it off, refusing to give the idea the energy T.I. wanted. That silence lasted until things exploded again in early 2026. During Super Bowl weekend, T.I. went on a podcast and suggested that 50 had agreed to a versus battle and then backed out. The message behind the statement was obvious. 50 did not want the smoke. In hip-hop culture, now while that kind of public framing can force a response because it challenges both pride and image. And once that comment started circulating, it lit the match. 50 answered the way he often does best. He went to social media. He brought back old footage. He amplified old narratives. He posted content that seemed meant to remind people of T.I.'s past legal problems and keep those questions alive in the public mind. That alone was enough to reignite the feud. But then he escalated further. On February 22nd, 2026, 50 posted an image of Tiny that many people saw as disrespectful and mocking. That was the moment the conflict stopped being only about two artists and started becoming a family war. Once that happened, it became far harder to predict, harder to contain, and much easier for emotions to take over. And when emotions take over, its strategy often shifts to the person who stays calm the longest.
How are you doing? I am just bringing it to your attention that it is now July the 6th. And I gave you 2 days for a grace period just because I had to get my shit together. I was having a good time, but 5 months, there's an app check for you or a paycheck for me.
The first major sign that the feud had entered dangerous territory came from T.Y.'s son, King Harris. After 50's post aimed at Tiny, King jumped on Instagram Live and responded almost immediately. His reaction was not cautious and it was not measured. It was emotional, aggressive, and personal. Instead of limiting the exchange to normal rap-style disrespect, he went at one of the most painful parts of 50 Cent's history, the death of his mother, Sabrina Jackson. That changed everything. 50's mother was killed when he was a child, and that part of his life has always been understood as deeply personal and tragic. Once King targeted that subject, many people watching felt the feud had crossed a serious line. In King's mind, he seemed to be retaliating because 50 had disrespected his living mother first. He framed it like payback. But public reaction was split immediately. Some defended him and called it loyalty. Others said it was too far, no matter what had started the conflict. The following day, T.I. posted a video dancing with his mother for her birthday while one of his diss tracks played in the background. To supporters, it looked like a family moment. To critics, it looked intentional, a contrast between T.I. celebrating his mother and 50 being unable to do the same. Whether or not that was the exact intention, that is how many people read it, and perception matters in a feud like this. Then another layer got added. T.I.'s other son, Deontay Harris, released a diss track titled Miss Jackson. Not long after, King appeared in a shirt featuring 50's late mother during a diss-related moment, and that triggered even more backlash. Even people who had no loyalty to 50 started saying the Harris family was taking the situation too far. The focus began shifting away from who was winning the rap side and toward whether T.I.'s camp had handed 50 an opening. That is where the silence from 50 became especially interesting. He was not silent in the literal sense, but he was not reacting with the same level of public emotion either. He looked controlled, calculated, patient. And that made people wonder if all the chaos coming from the other side was actually helping him. Because if he was setting up a larger media move, then every controversial response from T.I.'s family could be turned into supporting material. At that point, the feud was no longer just loud, it was strategic. And the person who understood narrative best might have been gaining the real advantage.
Got to wake up this Saturday, February 7th, on the dark side of the bed once again. And if you follow, you know I done spoke on that before, how I feel 50 Cent does not wake up on the wrong side of the bed in the morning. He wakes up on the dark side. And I say at least about half the month, maybe about 15 days, he gonna get it to the capital C's and go at somebody.
Around that same period, 50 Cent posted and deleted the teaser for what many interpreted as surviving T.I. and Tiny. That was the moment the feud officially stopped feeling like just another rap battle. This was no longer about dropping a harder track, posting a sharper caption, or embarrassing someone online for a weekend. A documentary threat changes the scale of conflict completely. The reason it carried so much weight is because the allegations connected to T.I. and Tiny were already known publicly. In January 2021, those allegations became a major public story after Sabrina Peterson, an entrepreneur and former friend of the couple, accused T.I. of threatening her with a gun during a 2009 incident. That accusation opened the door to a wider flood of claims. Within days, Peterson said multiple women had contacted her with stories involving T.I. and Tiny. As media coverage expanded, more details emerged. Attorneys began representing accusers. Allegations described a repeated pattern involving parties, hotels, drinks believed to be drugged, coercion, and sexual assault. Some women alleged that incidents took place over a long span of years. Several of the claims sounded similar enough that the story kept growing instead of fading. Major media outlets reported on those accusations. Lawyers sent letters to authorities. The issue entered public record in a serious way. These were not quiet internet rumors buried in a comment section. They were formal allegations that had already been aired in news reports, interviews, and legal communications. At the same time, T.I. and Tiny denied the allegations forcefully. Their position has remained consistent. They say the claims are false, malicious, and financially motivated. They have repeatedly insisted that no criminal charges were filed against them. That part is important because it creates the central tension in this entire story. Legally, the situation did not end in criminal prosecution. Publicly, however, the allegations never fully disappeared. And that is why the documentary threat matters so much. A courtroom and a documentary do not function the same way. Courts deal in evidence standards, procedure, limitations periods, and legal burdens. Documentaries deal in emotional sequence, repetition, testimony, visual storytelling, and public interpretation. One can close a file, the other can reopen a reputation crisis. That is why people reacted so strongly when 50 hinted that he might turn these allegations into a structured visual project. The threat was not about proving guilt in court. It was about controlling the story people remember.
With something much bigger.
The gentleman, an ambassador of the South, has now I'm trying to get an update, Tip. You called out 50 Cent and said you want to do the versus
let me tell
battle.
you something, guys. Hey, listen.
Here we go.
Hey, look, let me tell you something, guys. I know what the most entertaining and probably the most relevant, humorous thing for us to talk about. And I guess we could talk about it.
By March 2021, multiple accusers had legal representation, and the allegations had grown serious enough to draw formal attention. Attorney Tyrone A. Blackburn reportedly represented several women making claims connected to T.I. and Tiny. Later, attorney Lisa Bloom also came forward on behalf of additional accusers. Reports described women alleging similar experiences, including being invited to parties or hotels, consuming drinks they believed were laced, and later being unable to consent to sexual activity. The consistency of some of those accounts is one reason the story stayed alive for so long. Eventually, authorities in Los Angeles opened an investigation after women came forward. But in September 2021, the Los Angeles County District Attorney declined to file charges, citing statutes of limitations. That legal outcome mattered because it meant the public controversy was not matched by criminal prosecution. Around that same period, VH1 canceled T.I. and Tiny, Friends and Family Hustle, showing that while the legal system had not produced charges, the entertainment world was still reacting to the allegations in a meaningful way. Then another twist came in January 2024. when a woman identified as Jane Doe filed a lawsuit under California's Sexual Abuse and Cover-Up Accountability Act. She alleged that she met the couple in 2005, consumed a drink she believed had been spiked, and was later assaulted in a hotel while unable to consent. Again, T.I. and Tiny denied the accusations and moved to dismiss the case. In August 2024, the case was dismissed with prejudice after the plaintiff did not respond to filings. From a legal standpoint, that was significant. T.I. and Tiny then reiterated their stance, saying they were innocent, the claims were fake, and no criminal charges had ever been filed against them. But here's the problem for them now. Legal resolution does not end narrative vulnerability. A documentary producer is not bound by the same structure as a prosecutor. A producer does not need to secure a conviction to change public opinion. All that is required is a compelling story, a recognizable platform, enough source material, and the ability to present events in a way that feels emotionally coherent. 50 Cent understands that. He knows that if people sit down and watch a story packaged in a powerful format, many will absorb the narrative before they ever examine the legal details. That is why this situation feels bigger than ordinary trolling. What if 50 is really preparing something visual? Then he is not trying to beat T.I. in bars anymore. He is trying to shape how casual audiences, business partners, and the wider entertainment world interpret T.Y.'s entire public image going forward. And once that process starts, it can be extremely hard to stop.
Call me Tip. This is about another kind of tip that can help our mothers, our sisters, our brothers, and our fathers help get the perpetrators who commit crimes against them off the streets. All you got to do is call Crime Stoppers Atlanta. Tips can be anonymous, and there's even a reward. The number to Crime Stoppers Atlanta is 404-577-8477. That's 404-577-TIP.
To understand why people are taking this threat seriously, you have to look at 50 Cent's pattern. He is not just a rapper with a history of beef. He operates like someone who understands multi-step media warfare. First come the online jabs, then come the jokes, the reposts, the old clips, the captions that look chaotic but serve a purpose. After that comes the reframing. By the time a larger project arrives, the audience has already been prepared to watch it through a specific lens. That is how narrative control works. 50 does not always need to create a story from scratch. Often, he just takes what already exists in public view and gives it sharper structure. He gathers the fragments, organizes them, and presents them in a format people cannot easily ignore. That is what makes him dangerous in conflicts that move beyond music. He understands the long game. By early March 2026, he pushed that strategy further. He posted old footage connected to T.I.'s legal past, kept the snitch narrative alive, and made it clear he had no interest in giving T.I. the kind of battle T.I. wanted. Instead of stepping into a normal rap arena, he appeared to be widening the frame. Around the same time, blogger Tasha K added to the pressure by claiming that sources close to 50 said he was preparing a project focused on the alleged drugging and assault claims. Whether people trust her or not, the post added fuel because it matched what many already feared. 50 also dropped music tied to his entertainment universe, and while some of the lyrics were indirect, the context made the message land harder. Then came one of his clearest statements: "I am the algorithm." And that line summarized the whole strategy. He was not just saying he was relevant. He was saying he knew how to dominate attention, shape conversation, and decide what the public focused on next. T.I. tried to show he was not intimidated. On March 5th, 2026, he posted from a music video set and made it clear that he was willing to go bar for bar, hit for hit, or doc for doc. That sounded bold, and fans respected the confidence. He followed it with more diss-energy, including a track titled Trauma Bond. But one thing stood out in all of T.I.'s responses. They still felt like responses from someone fighting inside a rap framework. 50's possible next move belongs to a different framework entirely. That gap matters. It is one thing to exchange songs. It is another thing to face a documentary rollout backed by a powerful platform, public curiosity, and years of archived controversy. If that is really where this is going, then T.I. may be preparing for a fight while 50 is preparing for a campaign. And those are not the same thing.
I'm not raised like that. I'm not going about my mama.
The Harris family's involvement has made the whole conflict even more complicated. King Harris became one of the central faces of the feud because his reactions were so intense and so visible. Some people praised him for defending his mother and standing 10 toes down for his family. Others argued that he played directly into 50's hands by taking the feud somewhere so personal that sympathy started shifting away from T.I.'s side. Tiny later supported her sons publicly and framed their actions as protection, not recklessness. From her point of view, they were standing up for their mother after disrespect had been aimed directly at her. T.E.'s own comments, though, sounded more mixed. In interviews, he suggested he was not fully comfortable with how far things had gone, even while defending the motive behind his family's actions. He said he had been trying to steer King away from that kind of behavior for years, and that this feud had pulled him back into it. That detail matters because it shows the internal tension inside T.I.'s camp. Publicly, they are united. Strategically, not everyone seems equally comfortable with the methods being used. T.I. tried to explain his approach by saying the issue was not about winning or losing in a traditional sense. According to him, it was about showing the women in his family that they would be protected. That explanation gives emotional context, but it also highlights the trap. Once protection turns into overreaction, it can create new vulnerabilities. In trying to defend family, T.I.'s side may have given 50 fresh material. Observers noticed that right away. Some even pointed out that people around 50 could be watching every move closely, not just for entertainment value, but for strategic value. Every live, every caption, every visual jab, every reaction becomes part of the growing file. That is why the feud no longer feels like something temporary. It feels like something being documented in real time. 50 eventually addressed the comments about his mother directly, reminding people that she died when he was little. That shifted sympathy in his direction. Even people who usually treat rap beef like entertainment started saying this was different. Some voices in hip-hop media openly said the family had crossed a line. And that shift in public feeling could matter a lot if a documentary really is coming. Because documentaries work best when the audience already feels emotional tension before they hit play. If 50 has managed to position himself as the more controlled figure while T.I.'s side looks reactive and excessive, then he has already won an important part of the setup. He has created an atmosphere where viewers may be more willing to accept his framing of events. That is the real danger here. Not just what gets shown, but how ready the audience may already be to receive it.
If we in a case together and I die, put it on me.
God bless.
Put it on me, bro. If I'm dead and you can go home, man, put the case on me. You hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
And unless it was some shit I wouldn't be a part of if I was alive, you know what I'm saying? If you got some dope and I'm gone and you're like, man, shit, it wasn't mine, so, man, why not, bro? You still have a life to live after I'm gone. Why would I expect you to, like, where is the logic in that?
Right.
Where's the logic in that?
As of March 8th, 2026, no documentary had officially dropped. No platform had confirmed a release. No full project had been unveiled to the public. But that does not mean the threat lacked power. In fact, the threat itself may already be doing exactly what it was designed to do: building suspense, forcing attention, and making everyone involved feel the pressure of what could be next. That is how strong narrative threats work. They create consequences before the final product even exists in public. If a documentary eventually lands on a major platform and comes with strong interviews, organized allegations, archived clips, and a polished structure, the fallout for T.I. and Tiny could be serious regardless of legal history. Touring could face backlash. Business ventures like the Trap Music Museum could come under fresh scrutiny. Once Tiny's public image and any future entertainment plans could be overshadowed, the couple's broader brand, from media to business to legacy, could face a new round of judgment. But none of that is guaranteed. There is also a possible risk for 50 Cent. If the project comes out and feels weak, repetitive, biased, or driven more by personal revenge than public accountability, then it could backfire badly. T.I. still has a loyal fan base. He has survived prison, legal trouble, career setbacks, and controversy before. That kind of support does not vanish overnight. Some people already see 50's behavior as obsessive or jealous, and if a documentary feels like a grudge disguised as journalism, T.I. could end up looking stronger for surviving it. Then there's T.I.'s own warning: doc for doc. If that was more than just talk, so then this feud may not end with one side controlling the whole story. T.I. might try to counter with his own project, focusing on 50's past, his personal history, business conflicts, and unresolved controversies. Whether that project is real or just pressure is unclear. But the idea alone shows that both sides now understand the same thing. This is no longer about music first. That chapter is basically over. The real question now is whether the conflict fully enters the documentary era. Because if it does, bars and viral moments will matter a lot less than narrative structure, emotional framing, and public memory. T.I. and his family may have shown confidence, noise, and unity during the loudest parts of this feud, but 50's reputation has never been built on being the loudest person in the room. It has been built on surviving chaos, studying people, and striking with a plan that lasts longer than the moment. So now everything comes down to one question. Is the documentary actually coming? Because if it does, the next stage of this war will not be decided by who had the better diss, who posted the harder caption, or who looked tougher on live. It will be decided by who controls the story people remember when the noise finally dies down. And that is a much bigger battle than rap.